There's a big similarity in how I do my energy healing work and how I just go for a walk. So, in today's video, I talk about that, and instead of just watching my talking head, you get to see the pictures I took on a recent walk. Enjoy. You might have had this experience if you're walking around outside and you're thinking of something, maybe planning your day, maybe mulling over some problem that you've had, maybe thinking just about something, and then suddenly you realize, oh, there's birds singing. And the birds didn't suddenly start singing. They were already singing. Your ears were already capable of hearing them. You were just filtering the singing out before. And usually it's some sort of relaxation or attention opening. And then my senses, my hearing becomes available to hear the birds. All right? And the world seems more alive, and I become available to the life that was already there. And that's a very important distinction because it's not just birds. It happens with color. Like if you were an artist, like you like to paint, you would be very aware that the color of green of these trees changes throughout the day, the shade of green. It's very different in the morning and the midday and at dusk. It's like completely different colors of green. And sometimes it's not even green. It almost looks purple or blue. And it's so interesting, right? And there's the same thing is with smell. So my dog, who might be snoring, you might be hearing her, but she's mostly deaf and mostly blind. She's almost 17 years old. And she came back to this space where I've probably camped about 8 times in the last 6 years. Maybe more than that. Maybe more like 10 times. Anyway, a lot of times she recognized the place. And I bet it was because of the smell. All right? Because I don't think she sees or hears very well. But it was clear that she was like, oh, I'm back to this place. And so her smell woke up, right? And she was relating, I could see my dog relating to this place in a fuller way. And I feel like there's always more information available than we are conscious of. Part of being a baby and growing up is learning what to make important and what not to make important. So we're culturally programmed in our families of what to pay attention to, what sounds mean things, what sounds don't mean things. And we learn how to tune out a lot of stuff, which is fine. That's just how it works. And I think that one way to think about healing, and I'm talking about healing whether it's from a medication or from energy work or this distance healing thing that we're doing now, is that there's an innate ability of the body to assimilate information that helps it function. And it heals, or it becomes more whole, when the body lets the information in differently that was there all the time, but maybe wasn't being acted on for some reason. And this happens, again, whether it's surgery or drugs or energy therapy, it's still, a surgeon doesn't, kind of takes this for granted, right? If he just puts the 2 parts, something's going to mend in there. It's harder to do that if you get older. There's a couple things that surgeons know about that process, but mostly they just try to cooperate with it, not stop it, right? So when we think of healing as a treatment, or attending a distance healing with Suzanne Clegg, or a technique or a protocol, if it's almost like we're consuming a healing event. Or a little better than that is performing healing. So like if right now you're doing your rapid image cycling technique while we're talking, there's just so many inner gestures of how to do that. And I think that a really good way to do any technique is with this sense of relationship. Okay. So some of the questions, and this works for car mechanics and healing, right? How many really good mechanics talk to their cars? A lot of them do, right? Or even you and I might just, if our car's having a hard time starting, we're saying, come on, you can do it. We talk to it as if it can hear. There's a relationship, and somehow that evokes maybe a little slightly different behavior out of us because of that relationship. So, okay, but it's back to healing. We can start asking, am I doing this right? Or even better, is this working? Because then you're not believing that it's working, you're noticing if it's working. What should I feel? Or what am I feeling? What should happen next and what is happening next? Then we're starting to form a relationship. If we're just saying, is this working? Am I doing it right? Okay, like there's a certain dose of this technique that we're going to do it 4 times and then see if it works. That's really not a relationship. That's more like a management and a performance. And really good doctors and holistic therapists do this. And I used to be one of them. I used to say, let's try this 10 times and then see if it's really helping or not. Because that'll give us a sense of it. And I still do that to some extent. I tell people, let's give it the college try. But inside that college try, I want to have a relationship with it. I'm not just blindly doing a technique a bunch of times and hoping and then checking. I'm checking always. Before a session, during a session, after a session, I'm always in relationship with it. Because healing is a living process. And the body is living, I hope. And your life force is living. So you're breathing, right? You're alive. Your imagination is also alive. It's not a dead thing. And if it is, it doesn't work very well. Emotions are living. And how we witness our whole process of being alive is a living process. So instead of asking, what should I do? We can begin asking, what's actually happening right now? What is my body showing me? What gives me more vitality? Or, suddenly I feel tired. Or, suddenly I feel energetic. I wonder what happened. Like that wondering part is a little different than just doing something and expecting, to get information or something from that. So when we begin asking these questions, things change in our bodies. We may walk a little further. We may breathe a little deeper. Something shifts. We may notice that a certain food gives us energy and another one makes us dull, whereas before we were just eating stuff because we thought it was healthy or something. Kind of like the birds. It just sort of wakes up and goes, I feel bad when I eat chicken or whatever you're eating, or broccoli. And that's supposed to be good for me. Like, what's that about? And then you're out of this conclusion and into this relationship. And these changes can look small, but when it's alive, it's usually not some grand thing. It just feels important and alive. All right, so then how do you break this down? I like to break it down into 4 different conversations, because otherwise it's like if you try to be in the present moment and notice stuff, there's infinite things to notice. What do you notice? So I'd like to break it down into 4 categories so you can so that it's easier. So most people are having a conversation with the healing process that involves their physical body. So they may notice their symptoms like fatigue or pain or sleep or appetite or their tumor markers or other medical tests. And that's, of course, a very important conversation to have. And the physical body is the place of accountability. We do not bypass it, but this is not the only conversation we can have. There's also a life force conversation. So that is what gives me energy. What makes me feel dull? What perks me up? What makes my hands and feet warm when they were cold? What makes, how does if you have cancer, how does it feel like right now? Is it like calm? Is it prickly? Is there a cool breeze? Like what's going on with all that? And you can be curious about all that, and that puts you into relationship with your healing process. And you'll get feedback, and possibly things will work better even without you knowing. Like with the nature, I don't know exactly why I feel better. I just know I feel better. I don't have to have, it all lined up. It's very clear to me that I thrive when I'm in nature. Same thing with you. If you're asking the questions, it'll just be clear, this is a fuller way to be present with my process. It's already working better. All right, so there's there's two other octaves or conversations to have. The next is the imaginal, which is your emotions and your images. So what feelings are moving through my body now? What does my imagination think of when it thinks of the disease? Like what mental picture's going on with that? Does it change? What dreams, memories, symbols, or creative impulses appear? So these are all things that you can observe and have a relationship with. And then the top level is the witnessing conversation. What happens when you observe all of this, the physical, the life force, your emotions, your mental pictures? What happens when you observe all of this without rushing to fix it? You're just there with it. What happens is you can stay present with what's happening. You don't bypass. You're like, my emotions aren't important. My lab tests aren't important. Like, that's ridiculous, right? But we do that when we get scared and when we kind of get into this assembly line healing thing. It's rather easy to not do that if you just think of having a relationship to your process rather than managing it. All right. So now, one of the things one little thing is that, I've talked about how wonderful it is to walk in the woods, but a few days ago I came upon a recently dead animal. Well, not recent. It looked like it'd been out there anyway, there was fur and white bones. There was no meat left anywhere, but there was fur and that. And it was a little gross, right? And wasn't necessarily a pretty sight, but I just looked at it. And sometimes there's litter, and sometimes there's just other things that don't belong, that are out of place, that aren't nice. Maybe my campsite neighbor decides to run their generator all night. There's just things that happen that aren't necessarily beautiful in life, right? And it happens this way in healing, of course, too. So what happens if your physical experience is not beautiful? What happens if you're stressed or scared or discouraged? Or you come across something that just is horrible? These things matter. And you don't want to tell someone, including yourself, that has a serious health problem to just relax, feel your blessings, don't be stressed. It's not helpful, and it can even feel a little blaming. Stress is not a moral failure. Fear is not a spiritual failure. These things are part of the landscape of life too. So the question is not, how do I make myself feel peaceful? A better question is, what else is possible here? I can notice I don't like this. This frightens me. This feels ugly. This feels wrong. And then I can gently ask, is there another way to be with this? Because if I'm uncomfortable, it's okay to want to, you feel your discomfort, but it's also okay to move towards a place of more comfort. And it's not to pretend it's beautiful, not to force positive meaning into something that is not positive, and not to make your fear go away, but to allow one more possibility to enter. And that one question of what else is possible here can really change what is possible, because you're asking And you usually get it. You usually get at least a little something. All right? All right. So, and that little room is sometimes exactly what the healing process needs. And you can do it. You have the time, the money, and the wherewithal to get a little more curious about what's happening with yourself. This is not some lofty spiritual accomplishment. It's just, it might be because you have to change your habit of just reacting to life rather than being curious about life, but you can do it. Okay, you really can. All right, so I think I've said I had more to say here, but so the invitation is next time you're outside, it might be easier to learn this with nature than with your own healing, which is a little scary maybe. So listen for sounds you've been filtering out. Notice something you stopped noticing. You can ask a tree if it had a name, what would it be? That'll put you in a relationship with it. You can do that with a rock too. The goal is not to create the right experience. The goal is to notice what's here and now.